This is Forever Factory, a brand new 1.19 questing mod pack from the creator of Mechanical Mastery. That was a previous mod pack that we played, and a very automation-focused mod pack. And this pack is exactly the same. In that same vein, we have to work our way through all 6 chapters of the quest book. And as we go, we're going to set up a massive sprawling factory to automate the production of a bunch of different resources to get us through to the end game, with the end goal in this mod pack being to craft a single sentient mainframe. But that is, of course, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Right at the start of the pack here, we do have this first chapter, which says, Beginnings. It says, what's up with this world? Whatever place this is, there's absolutely no ores in the terrain. If I want to thrive here, I'm going to need some help. If I can get a couple of basic materials, I think I can connect to the galactic marketplace. So it does mention the overworld here, and it does mention ores in the terrain. That is because, if we look at the next quest here, there is an optional quest for Skyblock and Superflat. So you don't have to play this mod pack as a Skyblock mod pack. That is how I'm playing it here, but you can play this in the standard overworld. If you do, there are just no ores in the overworld. It's like all stone, andesite, diorite, that kind of stuff all the way down. Right here, it says, although this mod pack is intended to be played on a vanilla-ish world, you can also play it on a Superflat or Skyblock mode. However, you will need some resources to start. Specifically, we will need infinite water, we will need lava. They do give us extra samplings, although I guess we could have also gotten those from the tree as well. And it does say that if you're not playing the Skyblock mode, do not take the budding amethyst. That is cheating. But I'll put these in here for now. The main thing that we got is this shop. And much like in the original Mechanical Mastery, where we used Project E to automatically get a bunch of early game resources, in this pack, we're using the admin shop mod to buy and sell resources. And you'll see in the top left-hand corner of the screen there that we do start with $100. And so the general premise of this mod pack is to use the admin shop mod to automatically buy some basic resources. We're then going to set up a bunch of automation to convert those basic resources and process them into more advanced resources, which we can then sell back to the shop. If we click the sell tab at the top here, you can see that to begin with, we can sell logs, which is very useful for getting money at the start of the game. And then after that, we can sell things like these basic mechanisms, compressed mechanisms, the PCBs from Pneumatic Craft, and then eventually we can sell these sentient mainframes for a staggering amount of money, $12.5 million. But to begin with, there is a quest here. We can, if we want, craft the shop into a shopping tablet, like a shop on a stick. For now, I'm going to leave it down. We can always craft that in the future should we want it. This platform doesn't have, I think, anything too special. It's just dirt, grass, and a tree. We do have FTB Ultimine installed, and so if we hold down the Ultimine button, we can go ahead and tear down the entire tree at once, and we also have fast leaf decay as well, which means the leaf does disappear. What we don't have by default is the ability to shift to make this sapling grow. However, what we can do is we can go ahead, make a regular Minecraft crafting table, craft that into a crafting station. This isn't necessary, but is useful, in my opinion, for 2 reasons. One, if you have the crafting station, it has access to the chest next to it, which can be useful. But 2, you can also leave your items in here and come back and the items are still there. They don't spew out onto the ground like they would in a regular crafting table. But if we were to go ahead and make ourselves a standard Minecraft hoe, in this pack, if you shift whilst holding the hoe, that does give you the bone meal growth effect, and we can grow things faster. That works for most plants. It's very useful, and I do believe that if I am not mistaken, we can also do that with the hoe in our offhand, which means we can kind of hold our axe in our main hand, ready to ultimine down the tree. And then once we get the saplings, we can plant, for example, a couple of these, like so, shift with the hoe, and once they are all grown, we can again use our axe with FTB Ultimine to get a bunch of logs all at once. Again, very useful in the early game because now, back in here, we can click on sell, and if we shift left click on our oak logs here, as if you were putting something into a chest like this, you can do the same thing to the shop, and you'll see that our money goes from $100 up to $1,200. Just a massive increase in the amount of money available to us, and that is going to be very useful because all of the basic resources in the pack are going to be purchased through the shop here. For example, one of the first resources that the pack wants us to make is iron, and so we can go ahead and select that, and we can then smelt that iron, of course, into an iron ingot. The quest also wants us to get andesite and any plank. So the plank we, of course, have. Andesite we can buy for a somewhat expensive $45. It's more expensive than the $30 that we just paid for iron. The grass block here is going to be, I think, tremendously useful because buying this is going to allow us to expand out this platform and grow our trees much faster. One thing you can do here, by the way, you'll see by default, if you click, you buy 1. If you hold down Shift, you can click and buy 16. If you hold down Control and Shift, you can click and buy 64. And so right at the start here, we can go ahead and just buy a full stack of grass. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we do have building wands in the pack. However, I'm pretty sure that the first tier of wand is a stone wand, which does remind me that the first thing we should probably do before we even start putting down all of this grass here is we should probably look at setting up a very simple cobblestone generator. We do, of course, start with lava and water. So let me get all of these logs just so we can make a pickaxe, because right now we don't actually have enough planks to do so. But if we quickly do something like this, we can then take our lava and our water. One thing I think I will do right at the start here is probably set up an unlimited source of water just so that we have extras in case we manage to lose it somehow. So I think what we'll do is we'll go 1, 2, and 3. We'll put down water here and here. I'll then fill these buckets back up so that we have spare water should we need it. We do have 1 extra source of lava as well, which is useful again in case we make a mistake. And then here we are going to have to expand this out, I think, 1 further back like that, so we can put our lava down here and hopefully produce some cobblestone here. Nice. So you don't need this whole unlimited water source here. You just need 1 water source block that's flowing to make the cobblestone generator. I've just put down the extra water there as a precaution so that we can kind of fill all these buckets up and have water left over just in case. But now, of course, we can do a standard bit of Skyblock mining to acquire some cobblestone. And as soon as we have just the 1 singular piece of cobblestone, we can craft up a cobblestone construction wand, and then this can be used over here to extend out the platform, like so. It looks like it is going to put that down for both dirt and grass, which is not really what I was after. So what I'll do, I'll put down 1 layer manually, like that, and then back over here, if we shift and scroll to go to non-restrictions, we can then go ahead and kind of build this out nice and quickly, like so. We should probably also make it a little bit deeper in this direction, and I think I'll probably also try and square this off a little bit as well, like this. All right, and now we've got a nice big platform for us to use for growing trees and other things, of course. And that does lead me to the fact that it is nighttime here. So in the quest book, there is a configuration panel right at the start here, which has a bunch of options that allow you to customize the way that the world works. One of them, for example, is regular day-night cycles or permanent day. I'm going to go ahead and set it to permanent day because I don't really think that we need the night in this mod pack. Again, it's more of a factory automation pack. We then have regular weather cycles or no rain time. I'm completely happy with no rain. Keep inventory or regular death, especially because we're playing on the Skyblock and because I don't think we have graves installed, I am going to turn keep inventory on. I'm also going to go ahead and turn off the phantoms, and I don't think it matters too much about the wandering traders. I'm not too worried about those guys just yet. And the very last option here is for applied energistics. We'll come back to that later on in the pack. Difficulty-wise, we can set it to hard, normal, easy, or peaceful, and I don't really think it matters too much. I think we might be on normal right now, and I think we can leave it like that for the time being. That does mean we are going to have to periodically buy some bread or get our own apples to sustain our hunger, but for now, I think that is fine. And the other 2 quests here are energy generation. This is kind of just a quest line that shows you the available forms of energy. I believe there is a quest here that says that this is not a chapter where you're supposed to complete every quest. It is just an information chapter. And then finally, there are also some optional challenges. We're not going to do these, but for example, if you wanted to play the pack without using any kind of power converters, like the electric motors or the alternators, you could tick this quest. And then it doesn't change anything, but it's just a way of you agreeing, I guess, to play the pack in that way. So these are kind of optional challenges that you can partake in. For us, though, we can now head back down to this quest line. And if we want to progress here, we are first going to want to get enough cobblestone to make a furnace. So we have 8 cobblestone here. We can go ahead and craft this up into a furnace. Whilst I was digging out the cobblestone there, the creator of the pack is here in the Twitch chat, And the caffeinated challenge here is to complete the pack without the use of the Applied Energistics 2 system. I don't think we're going to do that this time around, but when we last played Mechanical Mastery, we did play through almost the entirety of the mod pack without using refined storage, almost to a stubborn degree, and so that would have gotten us the caffeine trophy. And look at that, it's a little Easter egg. We got the GRC logo right there on the trophy. Very happy to see that. So if you want to try the pack without AE2, you might get this trophy. Either way, now that we have our furnace here, we should be able to go ahead and smelt up our raw iron into some regular iron ingots, and that's going to complete this quest here. This gives us coins as a reward. I don't believe the coins are makeable. I think the only way to obtain them is via quest rewards, the idea being here that as we complete certain quests, we're going to get different tiers of coin, and those coins can be sold to the shop for an influx of cash. For example, we just sold those, and now we have $651. So, the main goal of this first questline, I think, at least initially, is getting to this basic mechanism, and the idea here is going to be setting up a system that allows us to automatically produce these basic mechanisms, because we can then sell them back to the shop for $251 a piece. In fact, one mod we do have installed here is EMI. This is not JEI, this is not REI, this is a different version of the same kind of premise where we can find recipes, but this is EMI, and one of the nifty things about EMI is that you can use it to show yourself the recipe trees. For example, in terms of making the basic mechanism here, I think initially we're probably going to use this recipe with the mechanical whisk and the basin. What we can do is we can go ahead and click Set as Default Recipe. I've already done this, but if you haven't, you can click Set as Default. And then what you want to do is you want to go through and set all of the recipes that are related to that recipe as default. Basically, by default, there's a ton of different recipes that EMI could choose from. And so you want to click Set as Default to tell EMI which recipe you want it to use. And so let me bookmark this, by the way. Hover over and press A to bookmark. But if you go ahead and set as default recipe, what you can then do is you can click on the recipe and you can click View Recipe Tree, and it will show you all of the steps and all of the items required to make that basic mechanism. And so now we can see that if we want to make one andesite alloy, that's done with one andesite and one iron nugget in a mechanical mixer in a basin, and then over here it wants to make more of that, and then we can use the cutter for sawing if we want to make shaft. These are kind of the most efficient ways of doing it. There are, of course, other ways to make these items. For example, you could make shaft by just crafting two andesite alloy together, but if we're going to automate the production of this shaft, we're probably going to want to do that via the sawmill so we can get the optimum amount of shaft for each andesite alloy, because here it all comes down to the bottom line. Because right now you'll see that if we wanted to make one basic mechanism, it would cost us 2 andesite, 2 planks, and 2 iron nuggets. That's not too expensive. If we hover over the number at the top here and scroll, we can actually increase this, and it'll tell us how much we need to craft any given amount. However, I think, real quick, the first thing that I'm probably going to do is a fair bit of tree chopping so that we can get a decent amount of money, because as we progress up here, it does tell us in the quest book, we are going to need lots of these basic create items. We're going to need a lot of andesite alloy, a lot of shaft, a lot of cogwheels, a lot of andesite casing, and quite a bit of dried kelp just to get started setting up any of this automation at all. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a fair bit of tree chopping to get us a decent amount of money. All right, so a few axes later, I'm going to throw this one away just because it's almost useless. It's going to break immediately, and it's not going to do all of the blocks. It's going to leave floating wood, which is never ideal. One thing that we have just been made aware of by the pack creator here is that depending on the tier of hoe that you have, that will increase the range from which you can use the shifting ability. So like with this one, we have got to be like 3 blocks away by the looks of it. If we go ahead and increase this to cobblestone, which I've not tested, but I have made a new stone pickaxe here. I've also put down a little bit of a stone slab over the lava just to make it a little easier for us to get some cobblestone, because sometimes it kind of flies in and then burns, which is not ideal. Let me try with stone here. Does this work from slightly further away? Maybe it might do 4 blocks, but it also kind of looks like the same 3 blocks. Let me try an iron hoe. Okay, that also goes at the same speed, so I guess for now at least that doesn't actually have an increased range, but if that changes in the future, we do have all of the hoes we could ever want now, and we also have 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks of wood, taking us up to $13,421. Nice. So now we should be able to start working our way into this initial create quest line. So I am going to go ahead and purchase, I think 16 raw iron here, It might even be worth purchasing 32 actually, because we do have quite a bit of money. You know what? Let's do a full stack. I'm going to do 2 more lots of 16 to take us to 64. Let's do something like this and like this. It could also be worth us doing like a little bit of charcoal production instead of using the planks here, but that's going to start to passively produce iron for us, which we can of course use to make the andesite alloy. For those who don't know, the andesite alloy can be made initially by combining 2 andesite and 2 iron. We'll go ahead and buy probably a stack of andesite for almost $3,000 from the shop there, just so that we have it ready to go. We then need to get ourselves some cogwheels, which are shaft and planks. The shaft, as we saw earlier, is just made with 2 andesite alloy, at least until we get the mechanical saw from Create, which hopefully shouldn't take us too long, actually. And then the final piece of the puzzle, at least for this quest, is going to be the dried kelp. The dried kelp here just requires regular kelp that we can smelt. Kelp is purchasable from the shop. It is rather expensive, $300 per piece of kelp. If we wanted a full stack of it, it would almost cost us $20,000. But, of course, what we can do here is we can take the regular kelp, and if we go ahead and kind of dig down in our water, we should be able, and that reminds me we don't actually have any shovel at all. Let me do this. We should be able to grow this kelp fairly easily. If we do this and this, I'm going to make it just that little bit deeper. I'm going to go maybe 1 and 2, like that. You don't have to plant the kelp on dirt. Any block should work. Just right-click it when it's in the water. And then from there, again, so long as you are holding some kind of hoe, either in your main hand or offhand, we can then just shift like this to make the kelp grow. And so long as we continue to break the block that is not at the very bottom, we can basically get an unlimited amount of kelp by shifting and left-clicking, and also make sure you don't drown, and make sure you don't fall off into the abyss. Those are the key things to remember when doing this. If we do something like that, it'll make it just that little bit easier. We can just hold down, left-click, and break the kelp. Nice. Unfortunately, we cannot sell the kelp back to the store at anywhere near $300. In fact, we can't sell it at all, but what we can do is quickly go ahead and gather some more cobblestone so that we can make at least 1, if not a couple more furnaces, and then begin smelting that kelp up into the dried kelp that we're going to need if we want to make conveyor belts. And not too long later, we now have 24 dried kelp with the ability to smelt even more in here should we wish. Our iron is coming along nicely. I did mine a fair bit of cobblestone, and I got a bit more wood as well, because although we can buy the wood here, it is more expensive than we sell it for, so it seems a little foolish to sell it only to buy it back for a higher price. You can buy basically any sapling you want here as well, and if you wanted to grow bigger trees, you could buy bigger saplings, but do bear in mind that you can only mine a maximum of 64 logs at a time using Ultimine. Any more than 64 just won't get broken. You'll have to do a second round of Ultimine to get those extra logs. So that is something to bear in mind. For now, though, we can craft down some iron ingots into iron nuggets, craft those up with the andesite to make a bunch of andesite alloy, and then craft 2 of those together to make some shaft, craft 1 shaft with 1 plank to get 1 cogwheel, and then if we wanted to, we could also craft 1 shaft with 2 planks to get a large cogwheel, which I think might be part of one of these quests. It is not, but we are going to need those nevertheless. And then finally, the last thing on the list here is to make some andesite casing. This is done by placing down logs, like so, stripping them, which you can do as well with Ultimine, by the way. So normally you just right-click. If you hold down the Ultimine key and then right-click, you can strip them all at the same time. And then from there, you want to take your andesite casing and right-click that onto the logs. I'm fairly certain you can't Ultimine this. You can't. That's unfortunate, but we can very quickly right-click all of those, at which point we can then Ultimine to pick them all up. Nice. And that gets us 10 andesite casing. It's going to be needed for almost every craft going forward, so I think it's definitely worth investing in quite a few of them. We can sell these coins back to the shop. And so now there are a couple of ways that we can go here. One of the things that I think we should work towards sooner rather than later is this arboreal extractor, because although we are going to work on automating the production of these basic mechanisms, I have looked a little bit further ahead here. And this quest wants us to set up a coke oven from Immersive Engineering. This is a multi-block structure that's going to allow us to turn regular coal, which I believe we can buy from the store in ore form, into coal coke. Crucially, though, it's also going to get us creosote. That creosote is needed for this section of the quest book. And once we have the arboreal extractor, this is going to be used to extract resin from trees. The reason I want to start with this is that it's going to take a long time to get a full bucket of resin, and this quest right here does want us to get a full bucket of resin. It even says, oof, getting a whole bucket without pipes might have taken a while. Don't worry, we're getting close. And so I think if we can, I'd like to kind of focus on trying to get this first. It doesn't seem too difficult. We do, though, have to get at least one basic mechanism to actually make the arboreal extractor. And down here, if we want to make a coke oven, we need coke brick, and we need at least one engineer's hammer. So the engineer's hammer should be fairly straightforward. It is 2 sticks, 2 iron, and 1 string. The string we can get by growing industrial hemp seeds. If we take that and we do something like this and like this, we should be able to hold our hoe, shift to make it grow, break this, that gets us this industrial hemp fiber, which you can then craft, I believe, like this, to get string. At which point, we can then go ahead and take these iron ingots, boom, boom, with the sticks and the string, and we get the engineer's hammer. Nice. Again, super nifty that you can access both the chest and the furnace from inside the crafting station. We just took iron directly out of the output slot of the furnace there, which is pretty nifty. And then from there, we just need to get 27 coke bricks to begin making the coal coke and the creosote. For that, we need clay, regular Minecraft bricks, and andesite alloy. So we need a lot of clay. We can buy clay from the store. It is a little pricey though. If we need 27 bricks in total, that means we need this recipe 9 times. Each recipe needs 8 clay effectively because it's 4 clay plus 4 bricks, which are made by smelting regular clay. And so we need 8 multiplied by 9, which is of course 72. 72 is more than a stack of clay balls. It is doable. And so I guess we will do it, and then we'll buy the extra on top of that as well to actually get us up to 72. And I guess we'll get those smelting kind of just over in here so that they're ready to go. And by those, I mean half of those, because we don't actually want 72 bricks. We only want 36 bricks and 36 clay balls. On top of that, we're also going to need 9 andesite alloy, but of course our iron has been chugging away here, and we did buy a large amount of andesite, and so getting more andesite alloy should be very straightforward. So I'm not really too worried about that. That should come together fairly quickly. And then in terms of actually making it, we just then need the basic mechanism, which of course is what we're going to work towards. So we'll see about making one first, and then we'll look at automating it after we have like the initial setup up and running. To make it, we need the mechanical mixer, and we also need a basin. Now, it looks like initially, actually, we're going to have to make it using this enigmatic hammer, because in order to make the mechanical mixer, we need an andesite machinery, and this is made with that basic mechanism. And so, first things first, let's see, enigmatic, how hard is this hammer to make? It is very straightforward. Nice. And so with that, if we want to make the basic mechanism, it's actually pretty straightforward. In fact, we can make one. Nice. And if we wanted to, we could of course go ahead and sell that back to the store, and I think we would still have made a profit, but of course I would prefer to use that to make this arboreal extractor. For them, we are just missing 1 bucket, which we do have in our chest, but it is full of water, so I will make a fresh one. And then on top of that, we also need 2 glass. Now, in terms of getting the glass, we actually don't have any sand available to us here, but I believe that we can get sand, I would assume fairly easily. Oh, we have some in the chest. Look at that. Perfect. So if we take 2 sand and we smelt that up over here, that should basically be everything that we're going to need in order to get the arboreal extractor. The arboreal extractor thankfully does not require any kind of power. You just have to put it down next to a tree. And depending on which tree you put it down next to will dictate how much resin that you get. For example here, a dull oak tree gets us 25 millibuckets every cycle, but the spruce gets us 50. I think spruce is the highest. All of the rest do just get 25, apart from rubberwood from thermal expansion, which I also don't think is purchasable, unfortunately, from the shop. And so I think that spruce is our tree of choice. So if we were to go ahead and place this down, and then of course use our hoe to make this grow into a nice big spruce tree, we should then be able to take our glass, craft up the arboreal extractor, like so. How are we doing on bricks? Not very well, because I was hoping to get these quests completed first, but that's fine. We don't have to necessarily complete them in order. It just means we'll have to pick the arboreal extractor up in the future to complete this quest. That's fine though. If I place this down, this is now going to very slowly but surely begin generating resin. So we just leave it here, doesn't require power. It is going to slowly but surely over time begin generating resin 50 millibuckets at a time. There you go. There's our first 50 millibuckets. We just need it to do that 20 times so that we can get one full bucket of resin to progress on to this side of the pack, at which point things will become a fair bit easier. For now, though, we're going to leave that there, and we are going to look at crafting up some of these machines here so that we can hopefully automate the production of these basic mechanisms. So first things first, I should probably make quite a few of these basic mechanisms, if we can, using this recipe right here, because that's going to allow us to make things like the mechanical mixer, as well as things like the encased fan, the millstone, the rolling mill, and the mechanical press, all of which I think are going to be somewhat useful. So shaft we have, and we can, of course, make more here should we wish. On top of that, we just need cogwheels, planks, and andesite alloy. So cogwheels, of course, are just shaft with planks. We could do this as well. I'll take quite a few of those. We'll go for 11 for now to match our andesite alloy. And then after that, we kind of just need more andesite alloy and shaft. So we'll do this as well because we need an equal amount of both. If I do that, I think that's basically us good to go. I'm making quite a few of these. Can I put in you, and you, and then can I make like 9? I can make 9. Nice. That's going to allow us to make a bunch of these andesite machinery pieces that we can then use to actually make some machines. So let me do this, and was it this with the casing? It was. And yeah, we'll go ahead and make quite a few of those. I'll make 5 for now. I'll keep the rest just in case we need them for something else. But that does get us 8 coins there. It says this is the key component to most, create, and some other machines. It might be smart to try and automate these early on. That is indeed the plan. Let me sell my coins back to the shop. Fantastic. We are running a little low on funds, but that should be fine. And then over here, there is a quest to kind of choose how we want to create power initially. Our options are the hand crank, both the small and large water wheels, the windmill, and the steam engine. Initially, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to make the crank. The crank is not, of course, going to be our primary source of power, but it is a nice item to have early on because it makes it easier to run individual machines and it makes it easier to test setups as well. This we can just plonk really onto any machine and use it to actually run that machine. Also, we get 16 andesite alloy as a quest reward as well, which is particularly useful, as is getting a basin and a depot as rewards for making the mechanical mixer and the mechanical press. I think the press might have to be made first because if I'm not mistaken, the mechanical mixer requires iron plates. It does indeed require iron plates, which I assume we're going to make using the mechanical press. And so if we were to see about making this guy right here, which is very doable, 1 shaft, 1 andesite machinery, and 1 block of iron, boom, and boom, that should be everything for the press. It is indeed. As a reward, we get our depot, and the way this works is we place down our depot, let's say here, we place the press on top, like that, I just shift right clicked, and then for now, we can put our hand crank on the side, like so. We can throw down 5 iron ingots, because we need 5 iron plates for the mixer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and once those are down, I think you can put all these down at once actually. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just right click this, that does put all 5 down at once. From there, we can hold down right click on the hand crank, and that is going to slowly but surely press all 5 iron ingots into 5 iron plates. The trouble with using the crank is that it does burn through your hunger incredibly quickly, at which point you have to buy the exorbitantly priced bread and pay $100 per loaf, which is the exact amount that we started with, which is absolute madness. We do, of course, have apples as well here that we can eat if we don't want to pay that fine, but they don't do quite as good of a job as the bread does. But that does get us 5 iron sheets, and I believe we should then be able to use those 5 iron sheets to make a whisk, and then that whisk should be usable to make the mixer. The mixer gives us a basin as a reward, which is perfect because the basin is needed to use the mixer. This one's a little different. You'll see there's no spot for the crank to go here, and so for this, you have to put down a cogwheel first, and no matter where you place it, it will show you that it does go there, and if you right-click, it will place it down there. And from there, we can then take the hand crank, attach that to the cogwheel, like this. You can put it on top as well if you wanted to, and then we can crank that, and that will work. And in fact, I believe now we could put, for example, 1 andesite and 1 iron nugget into there, crank this, and that's going to get us 1 andesite alloy, which is just a little bit more efficient than what we had previously, because here it took 2 andesite and 2 iron nuggets to get 1 andesite alloy, whereas now we can do the exact same thing, but it requires half as many resources. It also looks like now we can't do it just yet by the looks of it. So there is a recipe here that allows you to make andesite using the mechanical press. Yeah, right here, you can use flint, gravel, and lava to make andesite. At some point in the future, I think it even says this in the quest book, we might get access to unlimited lava, but for now, we don't really have that option, so I don't think we can do that just yet. Yeah, it says you'll learn about an infinite source of lava in Chapter 2, and then once we have that, we could look at setting up automatic andesite. For now, though, we can use the andesite in the shop, and one thing I've not mentioned up until now that is going to be key to automation in this pack is the buyers. These are super nifty devices. They do require a fair bit of iron. In this case, we need a hopper, like so. And then we need 7 more iron, as well as another chest. Can I do this? I totally can. You can make 4 chests at a time without having to craft the planks. Very useful recipe. The idea here is that, as the tooltip suggests, this will automatically buy up to 4 items per second. And so what we can do is we can place this down and we can tell it what we want it to buy. For example, if we wanted to automate something that required andesite, instead of having to buy it manually every single time, we would put the andesite into here, and now this is going to buy andesite. You'll see in the top left, we're losing money because it is buying andesite, and then we could use pipes or belts or really whatever we want to automatically take that andesite out of this auto buyer and ship it around to whatever we want to do with it. For example, if we wanted to automate andesite alloy, we just have to send the andesite round automatically to the basin with some iron nuggets. The downside, of course, to that setup is that we now have no money because all of our money has been automatically spent on buying andesite, which is not the end of the world. We can, of course, get more logs and get more trees fairly easily, and I think that's basically what we're going to have to do. We have managed to get a full bucket of resin here, which I'm very happy about, and also all of our bricks are done as well, and so we should, I think, actually have everything that we need in order to make all of the coke brick. We do. Nice. That's going to complete this quest, which does give us some funds. And then the next quest here does want us to get a bucket of creosote. For that, we do have to place down our coke oven, and we are kind of running out of space here on this platform, which is not ideal. I'll probably move some of the create stuff in just a second here, and also potentially buy some more grass as well once we get a little bit more money. But this is just a 3x3x3 cube, and then once it is fully down, you take the engineer's hammer, right-click on any of the sides, whichever side you want to be the front of the machine, and that will produce a coke oven multi-block, at which point we can put either wood or coal in there. If you put wood in there, it will turn it into charcoal, which is quite useful because it also produces creosote, I'm fairly certain. And so that should get us creosote. It does. We need to burn through 4 logs to get 4 charcoal, but more importantly, 1 full bucket of creosote. The only downside to the coke oven is that it is very, very, very slow. And so we'll just leave this going. I'll leave exactly 4 in there as well, so we can get 1 bucket worth of creosote, at which point we should unlock the quest for the arboreal extractor. We can then go ahead and, for now, put 1 of these buckets of water back down, take 1 bucket of resin out of the arboreal extractor, and now, as soon as we get our 1 bucket of creosote, we can complete all 3 of these quests. And so, while we wait for that to happen, I am going to somewhat awkwardly grow some more saplings over here. I think we can't quite afford a full stack of grass, but we can afford half a stack of grass. So I think what I'll do is I'll use my wand again to kind of build out a bit in this direction. Again, making sure that we do something like this so we don't waste grass building out the lower bits of the platform. And then I'll do a bit more tree farming to get our funds back up. All right, and again, a few X's later, we have quite a bit of wood. I've already sold some, as you can see. I will go ahead and sell a fair bit more here, keeping some back just in case we need it. And over here, we do have 1 bucket worth of creosote. Nice. And so I believe you can do one of 2 things here. I think you can either right-click on the coke oven itself, or you can place it up in here. That's going to go ahead and fill that up with creosote, at which point we complete this quest. We are going to lose some resin here by breaking this, but we do need to break this if we're going to complete the quest. I do think at this point in time, I probably should be making iron X's, because surprisingly, it's actually easier for us to get more iron than it is to get more cobblestone, just in terms of like manual effort required. Let me break that and immediately replace that down so we can get some more resin. And now we've actually completed all of those quests, and we can start looking at getting rubber. So rubber here is made by compacting resin using the mechanical press. That's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. We actually got the resin way faster than I thought we would. I thought it was going to take quite a while, which is why I did it so early in the pack. I think for now, though, we can kind of focus back up on the create side of things, because I think there's a lot of stuff we need to get set up before we really worry too much about moving into this right-hand side of the quest book. For example, I think one of the first things that we should probably worry about is how we're going to actually power all of our create machines, because as we've seen, we really can't rely on the hand crank because it uses so much of our saturation. And so I think initially here, we'll probably start with the water wheels. There are 2 tiers of water wheels. I'm not really sure why there are 2 tiers of water wheels. And I say that because of the fact that the second water wheel is way better and is super cheap. It's just 8 planks. The idea here is that we can place this down either on the ground like this, or we can stand it up, and then we just run water over it. Thankfully, unlike in previous versions of Create, it doesn't matter how much water you have going over it. So long as water touches somewhere and this moves, it will generate the maximum amount of stress units. And so, do we have access to the wrench from Create? We probably do if we can buy gold, which we definitely can. I'm going to go ahead and buy 3 gold here. I'm going to smelt that 3 gold into gold ingots, and then we're going to compress those down using our mechanical press into gold plates so we can make the wrench. The wrench is just going to make it that bit easier for us to pick up all of the create stuff and also configure all of the create stuff as well. In fact, we should probably split this between 2 furnaces to make it just that little bit faster. We are also going to need 1 more cogwheel. Boom. And that should be everything that we need. Let me take all 3 of these gold ingots. Let's plop them down for now. Right about here, we are going to have to once again move the hand crank over to here. Never mind, it turns out that you can use the engineer's hammer as a create wrench. I did not know this. But for example, we can put these in a chest for now because we might need them later. But if you shift right click with the engineer's hammer, you can pop off the hand crank. Cool. I assume you can also rotate as well. You can, just a regular right click. And over here, if we again shift right click, it just picks up the water wheel and immediately puts it in your inventory. There's no risk of it falling into the void, which is pretty great. So I do think I'm going to buy at least another stack or maybe 2 of grass. I'm going to quickly make this platform even bigger, and we will see about getting this water wheel down, but we'll also see about potentially putting multiple water wheels down as well to give us just a large amount of stress units. You'll see here, it's going to show us how this works. The water wheel rotates and generates stress. It might even show us that you can put down multiple water wheels. It doesn't, but it does show us that you can color this as well, which is pretty nifty. I have just made an iron wand as well. This is the exact same as the cobblestone wand, but it can do more blocks at a time. This one was maxed at 9 blocks. This one can now do 27, so we can do, for example, a whole line of grass along this side of the platform nice and quickly. All right, so now we've got a nice big platform. I think all I'm going to do for now, because we're probably going to end up moving a lot of this, but for now, let me put down some water wheels. I think these are 5x5, so I think I want it 3 blocks up. I do indeed. And as I mentioned a second ago, I think we do want a couple of these. I'm assuming the engineer's goggles might be too expensive. No, they're very doable, actually. Let me grow some more hemp, and let's craft that into yet more string. And then thanks to the fact that we didn't actually use the gold plates earlier, we just need 2 glass, and that's going to get us the engineer's goggles. These are useful because they're going to show us the kinetic stress production of these water wheels. So if we take both of those and we do this, we can then put these on our head. You can also put them in your head bobble slot as well if you want to wear them with a helmet. But now over here, we'll see that the current kinetic stress capacity is 0 stress units. However, if we were to grab 1 bucket of water, and again, in this version of Create, you can put this water down anywhere and it will generate stress. For example, if I do this, that's going to work, and you'll see that right away we get the maximum 512 stress units. You can't generate more than 512 stress units with this large water wheel. That is the max. It doesn't matter where you put the water. And so for us, I think what we're going to do is create at least 1, but maybe 2 more water wheels here. And then if we get some more planks, what we should be able to do is quickly upgrade those to 2 more large water wheels. And if you put these down in series like this, we can then put down, I believe, a required 3 buckets of water, and that should begin to generate 1,500 stress units. Let's give that a try. I'm also going to go ahead and get some ladders, actually, just to make our lives a little bit easier here. If I do something like this and this, we can then use ladders over here to get to the top. And I'm thinking if I do this, I'm going to break the hole here because I'm hoping that we can get the water to just flow down into the abyss. I don't want the water flowing all around the base. I'm just going to put it right there. That totally works. And you'll see here that we don't have water flowing over our island. Right now, it's only 512 stress units. The reason for that is that we only have 1 bucket of water down. If we, though, go ahead and put another bucket of water down right next to the first one, right about here, and then if we put down a 3rd water source right here, I believe that should give us the 1,500 stress units of capacity. It only says 512 per water wheel, but I'm fairly certain that we do have 1,500 total. So now that we have this, we can of course run these machines automatically, but it's going to be pretty slow by default. And in standard create fashion, what we can do here is we can use some of the big cogwheels and small cogwheels to accelerate the rotational speed of this setup. So let me make quite a few shaft actually. And let's also get, ideally, some more planks as well. My inventory is completely clogged here, which is not ideal. We're definitely going to have to make some more chests sooner rather than later. But here, if we do this and make a couple of small cogwheels, we can then do this and make a couple of big cogwheels. The idea here being that right now, our RPM is not particularly fast. That's rotations per minute. It's not particularly quick. However, if we were to use our wrench here, what we can do is we can put down a large cogwheel, and then diagonally adjacent to that, we can put down a small cogwheel on any of the sides. Let's say here. And this small cogwheel is now spinning faster than this one. Twice as fast, in fact. If we put down another one and do it again, pick a different side. Let's do down here. That's spinning even faster. It's kind of hard to tell at first, but as we continue this around, let's say up here, you can see now this is definitely spinning faster than that initial big wheel. And we're going to keep going. We're going to put one here, and we'll go up this time to the top corner like that. And you can see that at this point, it's becoming very obvious that this is, in fact, way faster than that initial water wheel. And every time you do that, every time you add one big cogwheel and one small cogwheel, that does, I believe, double the rotational speed. So if it starts at, for example, 8, this would double it to 16, this would double it to 32, 64, 128, and 256. We can get an idea of our speed if we were to go ahead and take this mechanical press. We can place this down over here, and you'll see here that the kinetic stress impact of this machine is 8 times the RPM. So if I put this down, this is doing just fine, and you'll see that it is using 1,000 stress units, but because we're making 1,500, it is completely fine. And if we do 1,024 divided by 8, that means that our current speed is 128, which means this would be 64, 32, 16, 8, and I think we're getting a speed of 4 coming out of the water wheel, which I think is being doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled up to the speed of 128. We could, of course, take this further. If we take it further and we double it again, that's going to take us too far, I think. If we put down yet another big cogwheel and small cogwheel, it will work, but as soon as I put this down, we're now overstressed and the whole thing stops because we only have 3 water wheels. However, if I were to go ahead and add a 4th water wheel to the setup, at that point we would be producing exactly 2,048 stress units, and this would start to work again. For now, I don't think that's strictly necessary. We probably don't need it to be quite this fast, at least not just yet. Later on down the line, we can look at making things quicker and getting more stress units. We can even look at getting things like the steam engine up and running as well if we really need a large amount of stress units, which I imagine we probably will. For now, though, we kind of just need to look at automating the production of these basic mechanisms, which of course is going to be done using this mechanical mixer. And for that, we're going to have to get some gearboxes to be able to convert the horizontal rotational energy that we currently have into the vertical rotational energy that we need for the gearbox. Thankfully, the gearboxes are pretty straightforward. They are just made with cogwheels and andesite casing, both of which I believe we have. We've got the andesite casing at least. We can make more cogwheels here. In fact, quite a few of them. Let me get 8 so that I can make 2 gearboxes, 1 and 2. Perfect. And then over here, by default, these allow you to just change the direction of the shaft like this, from going one way to going perpendicular. However, if we craft the gearbox like this, it turns into a vertical gearbox, which allows it to go up and down as well. Pretty nifty. In this case, we can actually put our cogwheel here. We could then move our mixer to here, and we could put our basin here. And now we are able to use this basin automatically without the cost of our saturation. Pretty nifty. In fact, if we were to go ahead and get a bunch of iron nuggets, let's say 42, we could throw those in, and then back over here, we could go and purchase a decent amount of andesite. Again, I will purchase a full stack here because I think we're going to need a staggering amount of it going forward. We can then drop the full stack into here, and that is going to begin slowly but surely turning all of our iron nuggets and all of our andesite into andesite alloy, which then we can of course use going forward to craft even more create contraptions. And there we go, we got 64 more andesite alloy. Nice. So we definitely do need some more storage space here. We are very much so running out of space. We have these oak chests. They're not the same as the regular Minecraft chests, but I think I'm probably just going to pivot over to using the oak chests because they are what the pack makes by default. We can turn the oak chests into regular Minecraft chests, but it's a bit of a pain. We have to make a regular crafting table, place that down, craft the oak chests, and then turn the oak chests into either oak drawers or regular chests. If we want to get regular Minecraft chests, I think it's going to be way easier if we just stick with the oak chests that we make by default for the time being and kind of just forego the regular Minecraft chest just because it's a bit of a pain to get. And I imagine that sooner rather than later, we'll probably end up moving into some other storage mod that we have installed already. I don't think we can craft that back into a chest though, so I'll turn that into a drawer, and I will probably end up using this drawer to make a compacting drawer, because I think the compacting drawer is actually going to allow us to get iron nuggets automatically for the production of andesite alloy. For now though, what I want to do before we wrap up this episode, I would love to get the mechanical saw, this guy right here. We're going to need quite a few of these going forward. The Twitch chat has pointed out that if you want, you can use the enigmatic hammer to make iron sheets initially. It does use durability on the hammer, which of course the mechanical press does not, but it is that little bit faster if it's not part of automation. And the idea, of course, with the mechanical saw here is that we can use it to saw mechanically. And so what I will do, let's have a look here. I think we're going to need like maybe 3 or 4 of these going forward, which is just even more iron plates. Thankfully, again, those are pretty straightforward because there's quite a few things we're going to have to automate if we want to automate the production of these basic mechanisms. We need to automate the production of andesite alloy, the production of oak planks, the production of shaft from that andesite alloy, and the production of cogwheels from the shaft and the planks. And all of that needs to be combined together in a mechanical mixer to automatically produce these basic mechanisms. And the added benefit, of course, is that we can then also get an auto seller to automatically sell the resultant basic mechanism to automate the production of cash, which is going to be very useful. So with the mechanical saw, this has the shaft on the back there, and I'm pretty certain that we can put it down on top of shaft if we want. For example, I think we can do this and this, and I was under the impression that that would work. Oh, you can put it down sideways, but then the shaft moves to the side. I don't know if it's also on the bottom. I don't think it is. That is probably useful, though. Let me test this out here, because I don't really use this all that much. I'm going to temporarily move this, and I'm going to put down my 2 mechanical saws. Let's say here and here. Okay, this does work, but they don't line up nicely, because I think here what we can do is we can put the log on. The log gets chewed up and turned into a stripped log. So if we wanted to automate strip logs, we can do that. And then after that, we can run it through again, and that's going to make 6 planks. So we do actually get more planks doing it this way. It's just a little awkward in that they don't line up. If we line them up, I'm fairly certain that we can kind of do that automatically. So if I do, let's say this, you can do this, but now these are spinning in different directions, which I think means that if I put these down, they're also going to spin in the wrong direction. So I can put that there and I can put this here, but I believe that if we manage to get that lined up, which we do like this, these are also not going to work because I can put one of these here, but that doesn't go the right way. So what we need to do is we need to get those both spinning the right way. For that, we can use a gearbox, because whenever you put a gearbox down, that rotates the way that the rotation is spinning. It changes it. So let me put a gearbox down here. So now these are both spinning in the same direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a shaft here. And now if I put down both of these again, it's a little awkward, boom and boom. We have to like right click on the top and the side like that. Now I believe these are both going in the same direction. So I'm pretty sure that we can put the log on the first one. It should turn into a stripped log, and then it should go straight through. It doesn't go straight to the second one, eh? I really thought that would go straight to the second one and get turned into a plank. We might need some kind of belt to make that happen. Never mind, I'm a fool. These are going the other way. It's spinning this way, but that means that the blade's going the other way. So if we put them on here, look at that. It totally works. So it takes the log, turns it into a stripped log, and then takes that stripped log and turns it into planks. Nice. So we can now turn all of our logs into planks pretty quickly. And I'm fairly certain there's a few ways we could do this. I think a regular hopper would work, but what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to get one of the auto buyers to automatically buy wood like this. So instead of buying andesite, we're going to set up another one that buys the logs automatically. And then we're going to have that feed into here to automatically make planks. And then we just need to feed those planks automatically around into the basin to allow us to automatically produce the basic mechanisms. We also want to split those planks off because some of them are going to be used in the auto crafting of the cogwheels as well. Thankfully, you can do that with a mechanical mixer. And so hopefully you can see here the kind of setup that we're going to work towards producing in the next episode, where we take all of the different parts that we've unlocked from Create so far and try and use those in such a way to automate the production of the basic mechanism. And then after that, we can look at moving over onto the right-hand side here, unlocking some of these copper machinery pieces, like the spout and the tank, as well as unlocking things like the hose pulley, which is going to be really useful for getting unlimited lava, I think, later on in the pack. And also get some treated wood, because in this pack, you can't use a bucket of creosote to craft treated wood. You have to do it via the spout here, which is very interesting, but thankfully shouldn't be too difficult, especially now that we have resin being made for us automatically here, and that is backing up quite nicely as well, which you love to see. And so next time, chat, we will come back and we will look at using our Create water wheel setup here to power, hopefully, the automatic production of these basic mechanisms using a myriad number of buyers and sellers to hopefully automate the production of cash. And then from there, we can, of course, move on into the pneumatic age, which we have, in fact, already unlocked. And we can, in fact, sell these coins right away. Nice. But unfortunately, that is going to have to do it for this episode of Forever Factory.